we're here today. The court scheduled a hearing based upon the filing of a petition for conditional release that Ms. Geyser filed on June 14, 2022. Based upon the statute, then the court calls a hearing within, or at least has to appoint doctors within 20 days. So we're within that 20-day period, and I wanted then to have a hearing to discuss the doctors that would be appointed.
Big hearing today began, hasn't been concluded yet, but we're talking about a girl who was 12 years old and lured her friend into the woods, stabbed her 19 times, but was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Flash forward 8 years, trying to get released from the mental institution. For those of you not familiar with the Slender Man case, Court TV anchor Michael Ayala has the story.
I just want to let Ella and her family know I'm sorry. I just never meant this to happen.
That is Morgan Geyser at her sentencing hearing after pleading guilty to a brutal stabbing that left her friend clinging to life. Geyser and another girl, Anissa Weier, stabbed fellow sixth grader Payton Leutner after a sleepover at Geyser's home. The girls claim they carried out the attack over their belief in a fictional internet horror character named Slender Man.
I believed that if I didn't go through with it, Slender Man would come and attack and kill myself, my friends, and my family.
Weier pleaded guilty to being a party to second-degree homicide, while Geyser pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide. Both girls were deemed not responsible for their actions because of mental illness and ordered to serve their sentences at mental health facilities, 25 years for Weier, 40 years for Geyser. At separate plea hearings, the girls described what happened as they led their friend into the Waukesha, Wisconsin woods on that spring day in 2014.
Morgan asked me whether or not she should do it, and I just wanted it to be over with, so I said, just go berserk, do what you have to do.
I came up from behind her. I jumped on her. I tackled her. And I stabbed her.
Do you know how many times you did it?
19.
Their victim, 12-year-old Payton Leutner, lay bleeding, with her friends standing over her.
Anissa told her to lie down so she wouldn't lose blood so quickly, and told her to be quiet, and we left.
Okay, so 25 years in an institution, 40 years in an institution, but it never means the real numbers, right? You're getting out early. One is already out. Now, Morgan Geyser trying to get out. Like, what's the point of the deal, right? What's the point of the deal? We're just going to conditionally release them. Like, why not a little bit of honesty in the sentencing? Like, can 40 equal 30 rather than 8 maybe here? Let's bring in our think tank, Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, Molly Palmer. Molly, I understand they were 12 at the time. I also understand 19 stab wounds, and I'm very concerned. You know, there was a point in time where I was a prosecutor, and everyone who was found not guilty by reason of insanity became what we called in New Jersey a Kroll patient. And day in and day out, I had to go inside that courtroom and listen to every doctor tell me why all of these people who had stabbed, murdered, and acted violently were okay to be released. Every time those doctors came into court, every patient was responding to treatment. You know why? Because that was the doctor who was treating them. Because what treating doctor is going to come in and say, my treatment's not working? None of them. So I was always fearful, always skeptical of hearings like this where we have people who are mentally ill and we've got these doctors coming in and basically telling the judge what to do.
Well, you know, Vinny, I think what you've highlighted here is that this isn't some like defense trickery, but there's actually a lot of input from a lot of parties. It's not just the doctor in isolation. In this Slender Man case, in Morgan Geyser's case, we had a prosecutor, just like you, Vinny, reach an agreement with the defense and with the judge. In the other girls, her co-defendant's case, there was a jury trial, resulted in a finding of not guilty by reason of insanity. It's not like these things are like, completely pulling the wool over everybody's eyes and these girls are getting away with something. These are processes that are heavily involved with a lot of different engaged parties. But the mental health in our criminal system is a huge issue. And any of us who represent those who have a mental health diagnosis know that when something is done by an individual who has some sort of impairment like this, like a profound mental illness, it's not the same as somebody else doing the exact same thing. And so that's why they get this different consideration. And in this case, these young girls who were deemed truly profoundly mentally ill by a number of people in the courtroom, not some solitary doctor, they should be reevaluated. And if they get to a point where they can be safely released into the community, they should be, irrespective of your experience as a former whatever New Jersey prosecutor, Vinny.
Well, Renee, here's the thing. Like, it doesn't shock me because guess what? You can go and try to assassinate the leader of the free world and you'll get out. And you can post your music videos on YouTube. Because these doctors will always say the patient is responding well to treatment. Give them some more freedom. Every time they're always looking for more and more and more because it's a built-in conflict of interest that anytime a treating physician evaluates or gives input on how the patient is doing, they're always responding well to treatment.
Vinny, I think that you are offending the doctors that are treating these individuals.
I am, because I had to listen to them all the time. No, it was like a script they were reading. It was the same script, day after day, doctor after doctor. I was waiting for one doctor to come in and say, listen, Judge, you might not want to let this one out. Never, never said it, not once, Renee.
Wow. Well, I've heard it before, Vin.
Okay.
I've heard it. We have a client from our office that has been in a mental institution for almost the last 25 years. So it happens.
Okay.
And once the doctors evaluate these individuals,
if they make
a determination,
what was the underlying offense?
It was a murder.
It was a murder. Okay. 25. And I want them treated humanely. I want them treated. I want them all of that. But at Carmen Rowe, at the end of the day, they are as potentially dangerous as a convicted criminal is. Someone who is mentally ill and not ready to be back in society, which is why I think there has to be an intense level of scrutiny and not just, all right, just tell us what to do, doctor. Like, there needs to be some cross-examination. There needs to be some skepticism about whatever a treating physician is saying.
Vinny, I couldn't agree more. And I don't know what's going on in New Jersey, but here in Texas, it's a contentious hearing and people here do not get out at all, certainly not as early as these young ladies are asking to be released in this 40 and 25 year max situation. But I think it's also important to note and incredibly unusual that you have young ladies that are 12 years old diagnosed with significant mental health issues, that it's an anomaly. It's one of those outliers that we just don't see that often. And so if they are released, which again is not common in these types of situations, I think it goes to the young age of these defendants and their mental health diagnosis, which clearly was not something that anyone was aware of until this assault occurred. And so this is one of those horribly tragic cases that, perhaps, something under 40 and under 25 is appropriate. But, just because the one young lady is out on conditional release doesn't mean this one, Geyser, is going to get out, because she's actually the person who stabbed the other 12-year-old girl. So just because one got out does not mean this one will. And I think it is going to come down to a very contentious hearing.